Hello everybody, this is Pitch Skull Black here, and welcome back to another Doctor Who DVD review, in which today I am going to be reviewing the legendary, the iconic, the power of the Daleks. So without further ado, let us begin this review video. So there's quite a few different DVD releases of the power of the Daleks, because of there being 3 separate animation projects on the story. And whereas I will be focusing on the special edition DVD for this review, I will also be taking a quick look at the original DVD release from 2016. So it's the year 2016, and early on an animation team were commissioned to do a full 6-episode animation of the power of the Daleks for the 50th anniversary of the story to be released on DVD. Because of the time constraints the crew were under to produce this animation in time for the anniversary, the release that came out of it proved to be one that was criticised and obviously quite rushed. This here was the first release of the story and this particular animation in 2016. There is a look at the front cover, the spine, and then the back of this release here. Then taking it out, we just basically have the same thing on the main cover art and sleeve for the DVD, with the one difference being that there is a more comprehensive list of extras on the slip card. Then taking a look at the interior of it, it is a 2-disc set with a booklet which is production notes by Andrew Pixley. Then we have a little brochure for the Doctor Who experience, and then one for the BBC store. So this here is the booklet. Basically has a kind of write out and detailed history on the power of the Daleks, interspliced with surviving images from the story and the original production. With one image from this 2016 animation at the back there. And then various cast and crew and various credits to do with the original production back in 1966. Concurrently to this 2016 animation, they were also doing a separate colour animation of the story, and because of time constraints, that particular colour animation never got finished, and as such in 2016 it wasn't released on the DVD, but it was released as a bonus feature in this steelbook that came out in 2017. And I've got to say, it is a absolutely beautiful steelbook overall, with a very kind of nice kind of art deco kind of vibe to it. There is the spine of the release, and then the back of it here. Unlike the other missing episode animation steelbooks that have come out since, this is a dual format release with 2 Blu-ray discs and 2 DVD discs. One DVD disc for the colour, one for the black and white, and the same kind of story with the Blu-ray, with the majority of the extras of this release being found on the first Blu-ray disc. This here is the steelbook out of the slip card. And it is very, very nice overall. Quite a rare steelbook now, this one. And so then we have the interior of it. We have the 2 Blu-ray discs and then the 2 DVD discs there. And then the background picture for the steelbook is kind of a continuation of the landscape of Vulcan in the kind of Art Deco kind of art scheme they have used for this steelbook. Jumping forward a couple years, the production team that made the original animation were not happy with the overall result, and in 2020 the Power of the Daleks Special Edition was released, which was a new and upgraded and improved animation, as well as I think having around like 2 times to 3 times more the amount of special features that there are in it. They really packed this release of special features, and it's quite incredible. The only difference with this is it got a standard DVD and a standard Blu-ray, but there was no steelbook for this special edition, neither was there a color animation. It was only for the black and white animation that they did this, and the Blu-ray and DVD here are practically identical as far as I can tell, with one of the only real noticeable differences being the back of the slip card and the actual case itself. So one weird thing here that they did with the pictures on the back, you will notice that they are cropped. If you look at the Daleks on the top left there, you can see that the front foremost one, that one's eye stalk is completely cropped off. And you can also tell that the Blu-ray in my right hand here, the pictures on it are more cropped than the one on the DVD as well, because again, going to the Daleks, you can see the foremost one on the DVD has 4 bumps visible in each slat, whereas the one on the Blu-ray has only 3 bumps visible. And you can also tell the TARDIS is a bit cropped as well as Ben and the Doctor. So yeah, weird kind of crop job on the back of this, but it is what it is. So taking a look at this special edition DVD, we have BBC Doctor Who The Power of the Daleks Special Edition, then the rating, which is a 12, and this is a 3-disc set. We have a very kind of cinematic piece of artwork depicting the Dalek production line seen in the second half of the story, with shots and bursts of electricity around the Daleks as they come to life. Very nice kind of cover art overall, but I think out of all of the releases I still really like the kind of Art Deco-y steelbook. And so then we have the spine. BBC Doctor Who The Power of the Daleks Special Edition, 12 BBC, couple DVD bits at the top there. And then we have the back of this release with 4 pictures from the animation, a synopsis, and a list of some of the special features that are included in this release. And then we have cast and crew information on the original production and this animation production, and then we've got various bits and pieces of various kind of copyright guff, technical aspects, 12 moderate sex references, brief gore, mild violence and threat. People may be a bit surprised by this, but this is actually in reference to a special feature on this particular DVD release, not the actual story itself. I think the actual story in this release only gets a PG, but because of a special feature they bumped this up to a 12. I think it's a similar thing as to the original DVD release of the Daleks in the Beginnings box set, and then the overall runtime is 150 minutes. Patrick Troughton stars in this recreation of a lost classic from 1966. TARDIS brings the Doctor, Polly and Ben to a colony on the swamp planet of Vulcan. Soon after arriving, the Doctor witnesses a brutal murder. Meanwhile, in another part of the colony, an ancient crashed space capsule has been discovered in the swamps. The colony's misguided chief scientist opens the capsule and discovers a group of strange metal quote-unquote creatures inside. Power of the Daleks was the first Doctor Who story to star Patrick Troughton as the Doctor. Sadly, none of the 6 original broadcast episodes none of the 6 original broadcasts any longer exist in the BBC Film Archives. That makes 0 sense. I've just recalled that now. Yeah, that makes no sense, I'm pretty sure. Weird. However, complete audio recordings of the lost episodes have survived, and it is these audio recordings that are used as the basis for this special animated production of the program, now in a brand new edition and brought to you in glorious black and white. So, for the special features, audio commentaries, animation gallery, episode reconstructions, as this does include photographic telesnap reconstructions of the story's episodes as well. The 1993 audiobook, which I believe is the original cassette tape release of the Power of the Daleks soundtrack, presented as a special feature on this release. The original BBC One trailer, which is a surviving piece of promotional material for the story and showcases a bit from the end of episode 1, and thankfully we have footage from that episode now as such. Speaking of which, we have a surviving footage compilation, Dalek session recordings, raw incidental music, photogrammetry featurette, photo gallery, from script to screen documentary, behind the scene, just behind the scene, not behind the scenes, but behind the scene, fair enough. Servants and Masters, the making of the Power of the Daleks, Wicker's World, I don't like my monsters to have Oedipus complexes, Daleks the early years, Robin Hood the Abbot of St. Mary's, which is a representation of all the footage that exists from a Robin Hood serial, I believe from either the very early 60s or the late 1950s. It's only part of one episode, but that's presented and included in this release because it is the earliest existing television performance of Patrick Troughton known to be preserved. News reports and archive footage, animation footage, original shooting scripts, plus many more. So as you can tell, this is just a fat release of extras. It is absolutely packed. So taking the slip card off, the only real addition and kind of difference here is Anarchy Wills's autograph on the front of my DVD here, as I pre-ordered it from her website at the time and as such was able to acquire a signed copy. And this is set to the reversible cover art. So then, opening up this DVD release, we have yet another booklet, Disc 1 main feature and bonus content, Disc 2 special features, and then Disc 3 more special features with the original default DVD cover art behind it there, or behind the third disc rather. So there is the front of this release, and then we have the back of it there, kind of nice, kind of smoky background. And opening it up, we have production notes. I wonder if this is by Andrew Pixley again, probably. And so then we have kind of details on the animation process, the history of the animation, and I'm assuming the original 6-part story itself. Then we have kind of color photos and black and white photos from the original production, some different ones as opposed to the original DVD release. We have the indexing of the special features in this release. We have disc 1, disc 2, and then disc 3 at the back there. As you can see, it is absolutely jam-packed with special features, as I have mentioned. Brilliant DVD release overall, I would have said, and I would recommend it. So with my preemptive overview and showcasing of the Power of the Daleks animation physical releases, let's get on to my actual review and thoughts and opinions on this Dalek story. If we're talking about Doctor Who in the lens of the many missing episodes, this is one of the big ones, if not the biggest. Not only is it wanted to be recovered because it's the first post-regeneration story, and in turn the first second Doctor story, but even in its missing status, it's seen as one of the very best Dalek stories. Several clips are known to exist, including some film trims that were found a few years ago. That would be the most recent recovery of lost material from the show as of this video's upload, but no full episodes are known to exist, sadly. Thankfully, however, audio-only broadcast recordings of the sextet are preserved, and these have been used to recreate the story in animation, filling in a gap for what is the most depleted season of the show in terms of missing episodes. Only 10 of 43 are known to exist, with no serial existing wholly. Season 4 of the show was very much a turning point in its history, with the first regeneration occurring. It began, unusually, with what many would see as a pretty inadequate opener, being The Smugglers, a pirate-centered historical. Personally, I'm not as harsh as others are on it, but yes, it isn't the best way to open the season. However, this set of episodes improved immediately. Up next is quite an incredible interlinked 10-episode set with the 10th planet and the power of the Daleks, the introduction of the menacing Cybermen, the return of the Daleks, and a highly important piece of continuity for the show. The season would continue on, introducing the acclaimed companion Jamie McCrimmon, taking the crew to Atlantis, the Moon, an Orwellian colony, and Gatwick Airport in the modern day, with the latter leading to another meeting with the Daleks. Previously, the titular foes here appeared 4 times in William Hartnell's era as the Doctor, culminating in an epic 12-episode story in Season 3. Here, in their 5th outing, it is proven that the power of the Daleks is not just a major moment in the history of the show, but a major moment for the greater continuity of the foes, and ultimately a segue and bridging point to what would be their finale at the time in the show, the evil of the Daleks. A completely new dimension to the way they are displayed and presented is achieved. The debut of what would be known as the Dalek Emperor occurred in Season 4's finale story. Having watched the preceding Dalek story again, it makes me wonder if they were in the background all along within the William Hartnell stories. He orchestrated the happenings of the invasion of Earth and the ones where the race were able to control the element of time. As well as this, could he have overseen the defeats that occurred? To me, this would make sense, because here in Power of the Daleks, the race are now studying humanity and trying to learn what they are capable of, and it would appear that they may have also learnt a lot from the preceding stories, such as Master Plan, which does thematically link into the next appearance of them. We understand the human mind. Why do human beings kill other human beings? In his story where he is shown, it's displayed as if he's a huge spider sitting in the middle of a web. But the question is, how big is that web? Here in Power, it is shown that they have started to study humanity more, in what is likely preparation for their upcoming plan with the human factor, as it's put. They don't fully understand the race quite yet, but in this seemingly scout-like mission, they are manipulating and deceiving a race that has been at the heart of their defeats to research a way of fighting fire with fire. Along with adding a completely new dimension to the antagonists, David Whittaker manages to pay homage to the origins of Doctor Who by borrowing the idea of a buried capsule with hidden aliens from Quatermass and the Pit as a way of having them appear in this story. This is also quite an interesting point to be brought up for me within my theory on the Emperor Dalek, as a major element of that serial was the intervention of the evolution of humanity. Another story that has an idea of an aspect or aspects of humanity being learnt, the way they tick and the way they work. I haven't watched The Evil of the Daleks in a while, but I do recall the twist at the end of episode 6. So perhaps my theory here has some holes in it, but I still find it interesting to ponder upon. Plus, it could also be that the Emperor had no involvement in any of the first Doctor stories, but as shown in various points of the show, Skaro is a very large planet of many sections, so who knows. There's another point in that a Dalek from the capsule in Power recognises the Doctor in their first few hours of life in a new body, so it is highly likely that the ones found within the object are from some point in the future anyways. Daleks here are so sly and quite unlike anything seen of them before. Whereas I love the way they were characterised in Master Plan, with their very much unstoppable and no holds barred attitude at achieving a goal, here they are completely creepy and quite unlike anything else in regards to an appearance or iteration of them. The I Am Your Servant cliffhanger to episode 2 is pretty bone-chilling, especially since we had not heard them speak at all in this story up until this point, and their heavy background of being displayed as a dominant, destruction-bringing species of aliens. The story very much takes the word power that is being used in its title and shows and develops this aspect of the Daleks in more ways than one. Whereas the Pepper Pots are one of the most thought-provoking and interesting aspects to the story, that's not to say that they're the only good characters to be found within. Obviously, another major talking point within this story is the Doctor. Within my fandom series that I did, namely in Twice Upon a Time, Doctor Who's National Tragedy, I mentioned how the second Doctor was much more gung-ho in comparisons to the first Doctor in that video, with the latter to me being very much a man of peace and science, with only taking desperate measures if necessary. Before this development into this version of the character, very early on in his run, we can see Patrick Troughton's figuring out who he wants to be in this new body, so to speak, with it gestating throughout season 4. Here in Power of the Daleks, we can see him as a very light-hearted, childish, and almost careless in areas person, that yet possesses great intellect and wit about him in regards to dangers and concerns of things that could very well happen, namely with the Daleks. It is thanks to him that we get several bits of levity which are found throughout the story. Him playing his recorder much to Ben's annoyance, and the Lesterson listens moment with Polly. Perhaps the best moment that displays his masking-like character here is the fruit scene, where he deliberately talks about apparent nonsense, including a reference to his meeting with Marco Polo, to avoid being picked up by a microphone buried in a piece of harvest. There's another nice reference to the first Doctor historicals here, in which he uses a Saracen blade to open the produce, an object that also got glimpsed in episode 1 with his treasure chest that he opens. Whereas it obviously hasn't aged the best given the context of how many regenerations there have been since, and we know that it is the Doctor, for the first one, the story here delivers an extremely well written and excellent dynamic between them and his companions Ben and Polly, whom are questioning if it really is the Doctor that this new person is, with the former really being quite ambivalent in several areas and the latter using details that she picks up on to formulate a perspective of what is going on. For example, them remembering what the Doctor said in the tracking room in the 10th planet. These two companions are really well depicted in this story, with Ben his usual Navy-minded self and Polly displaying great signs of intelligence. I don't think they're my favourite companions ever, but I will still say that they are pretty underrated given how destroyed their TV episodes are. Lesterson, as played by Robert James, is another character highlight within the story, and one many people talk about for a very good reason. In terms of one, just from the perspective of being a scientist for the colony, he is fantastic, but when we talk about his progression in the overall story, he's outstanding. The Daleks, as I've mentioned, are extremely manipulative and cunning, and nobody realises and gets this more than Lesterson, to the point where it drives him completely insane by the end. It's like he's a pawn in one big chess game for the antagonists. They move him about to their will. He gives them what they want. They end up succeeding in many tasks thanks to him, all the while doing it behind his back, only for him to realise too late that the Daleks have achieved a checkmate. This again just plays into how brilliant the Daleks are written and done. The story overall is somewhat basic but extremely well written, with the way the Daleks are done elevating it to a new level of quality as with some of the other characters. In the past I have only given this story an 8 out of 10. I appreciated the way that the second Doctor was done and introduced, plus it being generally a great Dalek story, but no matter how many times I rewatched it since my multimedia review in 2017, it didn't go up from that rating and stayed at that level. I went back to it in late 2023 thinking that it might come out differently given my greater experience of reviewing, researching and analysing television now, and it most certainly did. Not to mention that my exploration and love for 1960s Doctor Who probably has deepened significantly since that 2017 video. Whether this story has clicked for me in the same way as it has with other people is another question that I can't answer. Whereas I do think that it does act as an excellent story standalone, I think I enjoy it so much now mainly because of it being essentially an incredibly written continuity axis within what is my favourite season of the show. It feels like a major moment midway through a season of several plot revelations that are just epic and add so much to the overall package of episodes. Something like an incredibly satisfying duology of mythology episodes partway through a batch of X-Files. Granted, not everybody likes those types of episodes in that show, but still. I will also add in here and reference another video being the Doctor Who fandom and the missing episodes, as I want to mention that I think the recovery of the 6 episodes would be incredible to see purely on the grounds of how we would be able to see all of the details and nuances to Patrick Troughton and Robert James's performances. Whereas this second animation is very good, despite 2 moments of parts of characters being transparent, it is definitely not capturing the full beauty of both of these performances due to the limitations of this release. As I said and detailed, I feel that it is not only an incredible moment for the greater continuity of the show, but one for the Daleks. David Whittaker really was a force to be reckoned with in the second Doctor era. That is until he got his hands on the opportunity to do a Cyberman story. It's taken a very long time for me to reach this point with having a full video form of the story to watch, but I'm going to be rating The Power of the Daleks a 10 out of 10.